Welcome everybody to our webinar today. We're going to give everybody a few minutes to get in. They're still coming. So we'll give about a minute or so for everybody to get situated and ready for the presentation. Thank you. We're going to give everybody about another 15 or 20 seconds, and then we'll start. Good morning. My name is Ben Shipley. I'm Vice President over North American Sales for CoolAutomation. I'll be your host today. I'll be presenting along with Roy Mukhtar, who's Vice President over Products, also at CoolAutomation. We also have as a panelist, Kevin Ward, who is our Customer Success Manager for North America as well as Latin America. Happy to have him joining us as well. Of course, I know some of you may be very familiar with our products, some of you may not be so much, or a company. There's definitely going to be some questions I'm guessing that you're going to have. We ask that you put those questions into the Q&A box. You'll see that on your console there in the webinar. I would ask if you could wait till the end to ask those questions, and as we're wrapping up, then most likely myself and Kevin will answer those for you. So thank you. Welcome. We're going to talk today about VRF and remote diagnostics and understanding how to enhance your overall service offering, particularly in the VRF space, with our unique cloud-based tools. First, let me talk a little bit about CoolAutomation. CoolAutomation was established in 2007. They were established with the VRF and the mini split space in mind. So from the very outset, we knew that we wanted to drive to create native solutions for any manufacturer out there that would allow for remote management, remote diagnostics, we're going to touch on, and even integration. I'm assuming many of you are probably familiar with our products. If you're not, happy to talk about it more. Probably won't be touching on those specifics today in this presentation, but if you do have questions, my contact information will be at the end of the webinar. Please feel free to reach out to me or to any of your account managers about our capabilities. So we're based in Tel Aviv, Israel. We have offices throughout the world, including Australia, Asia, Europe, and of course in the United States. We have local domestic capabilities for service as well as support. And we also distribute and warehouse the products here domestically as well. So let's start with the big question. What's the point of remote diagnostics? What does that give us? So we know historically the way service has always occurred is that a customer calls up, complains, you send a van out, take care of it. With remote diagnostics, technology has finally matured to a point where you're able to bring in your VRF system and have it persistently connected to a cloud-based set of servers. And through that connection, you've greatly enhanced its capabilities, that being the system on site, because you're able to leverage all the power of those servers into your specific project or applications. So that persistent connection is first going to give you a dashboard that allows you to look at instantaneous data, live data as it's coming in. So if you get a call, you can look and see what they're actually experiencing on site. But even probably most importantly, is that it also has the capabilities to give you a suite of analytics reports that allow you to dive deep and to find what I will call invisible opportunities, at least historically, right? Things that aren't easy to detect day to day, aren't easy or might even be effectively impossible to track day to day. But through that persistent connection The servers are able to pick up, the software is able to pick up data, trends, and then provides you quality reports indicating where there are opportunities for optimization, perhaps, where there are areas where there's degradation in performance as well, and then allow you to use that as actionable information to enhance your overall service offering. So beyond the reports, you also have the alerting capabilities. So as we all know, the manufacturer alerts that come through the hardware, those traditionally are either really broad, something like clean filter, or are a little late, meaning that a catastrophe has already occurred. You're already not getting cooling, or whatever else might be occurring, right? So usually falls in one of those two categories. Well, with remote diagnostics, you're able to dive deeper and coupled with the analytics tools to then generate messages or alerts out to you when there is these deviations. And they can be minor deviations. It can be deviations that your customer may not be noticing, but you have the benefit at that point then to determine a priority to it. Like, is this something I need to address immediately? Or is this something we can wait a few weeks, maybe even a few months to handle? But either way, you're going to see significant returns. Your customer is going to be happy because nothing's going wrong. And you're going to be happy because you're going to be able to manage your workload much better. So you really move from a reactive model over into a more proactive space. I will touch on the slide as well, indicates COVID-19. This is definitely represented I think using the word significant wrinkle in our business processes is probably understating it a little bit. We've all been dealing with this for the last couple of years, but at this juncture, remote diagnostics become more important than ever, especially with municipalities changing policies and laws and regulations, what feels like every day. You now have the ability to be able to connect in these systems without potentially exposing your customers to any disease vectors, as well as remaining compliant. So you can keep doing your service. You can stay ahead of things without having to be there on site. Great win when we're talking about COVID. So probably the best way to talk about why remote diagnostics is so valuable is to go through a typical traditional service ticket model, right? So what happens? We have customer site. Customer typically is complaining, hey, I'm hot, or maybe there's a manufacturer alert that has been triggered. Either way, somebody that's not involved in the HVAC space or technical even is complaining about something. Typically, that person will then engage somebody locally on site that's responsible for handling the facility and tell them, hey, there's a problem, I'm hot, can you help me? And that person might do a couple of very high level troubleshooting routines, but typically they're going to then engage their HVAC vendor and their service group and say, hey, there's a hot zone here, can you please help figure out what's going on? So that service person will go, okay, well, we know this is model X, Y, and Z. Why don't you check this and this? So against maybe a little bit more high level stuff, send the facility manager back to the unit. Let's see what's going on. Usually, and not usually, but frequently that also becomes fruitless. And so that tier one support at the service center then might have to engage a technical expert. That technical expert might be at the HVAC company, or frequently that expert is probably with the manufacturer, which means that their availability is very limited. Of course, here we've given you a pretty bad scenario where you're looking at 2 days before that expert's going to be able to provide any kind of quality analysis. 2 days, obviously unacceptable. So now the service person is going to put that ticket into the expert, but then also dispatch a van with only this little pieces and shreds of information that they've been able to collect, not much beyond it's hot, right? So that technician drives out, and then they can't figure out and isolate what's going on immediately. They'll connect a service tool to the system or the unit, and leave it on site. Sometimes 24 hours, maybe 2 days, maybe up to a week. They drive back to their office, go home, eat dinner, come back the next morning. and drive back out and analyze the data. So now they've actually got the data. They can look at what's going on with the VRF system, understand what's happening. Now here's the other challenge though, is that now they understand, but they're on site again, right? So now they have to go back to the office to go pick up the appropriate replacement equipment, the PCB or pipe or hose or whatever the case may be. They have to go back, get it, come back out again to remedy the issue. And hopefully by that juncture, everything is back in order again. But you can see it's a process. And I'm guessing everybody here is very familiar with the HVAC industry. So this is not a revelatory slide, if you will, but it does give you a nice picture of how inefficient all this might be. We're looking at that van had to go out there 3 times to understand what was going on, and then begin by addressing it, then analyzing it, understanding, returning, and then replacing and fixing it. So that's 3 trips. If it's a local, around the corner, maybe not tremendously expensive, but if we're talking about a remote site, that becomes astronomically expensive. And then we're talking at least 12 hours of the technician's time, maybe even more if you start accounting in for the technical expert getting involved, all the time that the service center is having to deal with the facility manager at the site. That number can increase very quickly. And then, and this is probably the worst part, you're looking at extended downtime, right? Now your customer's unhappy because for 4 days, either that office, or maybe hopefully not, but the whole building is very hot, very uncomfortable. And there's lots of complaining, lots of people sweating. And I don't mean just the people at the site, I mean everybody involved in the process, right? So pretty bleak picture. So let's rerun this scenario using remote diagnostics. Customer, building is connected into the cloud. This, again, it has that persistent connectivity, so it's feeding data always. And the service center has that connection into the cloud as well. So both sides are seeing the data, live as well as historical data. So now that alert's coming in, or that customer's complaining about being too hot. Ideally, the software picks up on that and immediately pushes that information over to the service center. The service center then in turn is able to get ahead of it and go back to the facility manager and say, hey, we've detected this error. We're checking into it. We'll let you know what's going on. Now, the tier 1 support might have enough data, enough familiarity with these systems that they can handle this right out of the box. If not, if you have to engage a technical expert again, at least at this time, you have all the data points. You have everything from the sensor readings on the pressures, the temperatures, the equipment statuses, all of that's available and available to be pushed over to the technical expert to read and to understand. But ultimately what that means is that they know exactly what has to be done to fix it. And so they're able to dispatch out that van with the correct information to that technician to make the fix, and the correct parts, of course, to be able to remedy it. They go over, replace it. They're able to verify performance locally on site, but they can also use the remote diagnostic tool in conjunction with the service center to also remotely recommission the site, right? So then the service center can verify that everything is okay before the technician even leaves. So you have this other layer of quality control that's available. So what does that look like from a summary standpoint versus the other one? Now we're looking at 1 trip versus 3. We're looking at 5 hours, give or take, for handling all this. And we're looking at a maximum of 1 day that the unit, or excuse me, the unit or the building is actually down. Now, I want to emphasize that 5 hours of the technician, that's great. I mean, that's an easy savings for everybody to understand, but I think the real magic in that number is that means that the technician is available and has capacity to handle other things. So where the other technician was locked up for 2 or 3 days with this single customer, you now can have the technician, whether that's you acting in this role or you working with people together, have them working on other projects. You open up your availability. tremendously. So how do we achieve the remote diagnostics? What do we have to do to bring all this together? I'm going to touch on this very lightly and very high level. For those that are familiar with our products, this will be immediately understandable. For those that may not have as much familiarity, please, again, feel free to reach out to me. We can talk about it further. But all it takes is to install a Cool MasterNet or a cloud box into your VRF system. It communicates natively, so there's no need for any additional controls from the manufacturer, and it's compatible with effectively all the manufacturers out there, whether we're talking Daikin, Mitsubishi, Hitachi, Samsung, LG, they all work out of the box. You plug it in, it detects all those units. You plug in an Ethernet cable, and it communicates up to the CoolAutomation cloud that in turn is connected to the remote diagnostic software. Literally, if everything is set up correctly on the system side, you can be up in a matter of minutes and communicating and looking at that data remotely and having it stored on day one. Lots of advantages this brings, of course. As I mentioned, you got plug and play installation and commissioning. CoolAutomation products are very simple to get going. It's a 2-wire connection and powering it up, and it's ready to run. You now have enhancements that you're able to look at everything that's happening in that system. So we go beyond just the set points and the zone temperatures. We get into the liquid line temperatures, the individual pressures. We can even look at the current draws of your condensing units. All that information becomes now available for you and becomes actionable. And then the remote diagnostic software has a sophisticated suite of reports that allow for deeper analysis of the equipment and the site. And those reports in turn can be exported and delivered to the customer or utilized internally to be able to handle whatever issue or case might come over to you. And then last, and I wish to emphasize this for those that are not familiar with CoolAutomation, we support all the brands out there. So this is not isolated to one manufacturer. This is something that then becomes consistent, that you can deploy if you're working with multiple manufacturers or you're working with legacy systems that are perhaps not using the manufacturer that you're repping. Whatever the case may be, you can bring them all in onto a common platform, have a common experience, only have to teach your service team once how to use the software tool rather than having to teach them how to use this tool from X manufacturer or this other tool from Y manufacturer. You just learn it once and then you're ready to go. So I've talked a lot about the build up to the software. I'm going to turn the time now over to Roy, who's going to actually take you through the software itself. So you can actually see tangibly the capabilities, benefits that it has. Roy?
Thank you, Ben, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Appreciate your time. I'm going to walk you shortly through a demonstration of the tool itself that Ben has just shared with you. So this is our software, cloud-based software. What you see here is actually our site, which have multiple locations globally. You can see all the systems that are connected to it. You can see alerts that are opened of multiple categories of alerts. But the idea is to give you a clear understanding of all the sites that you're actually managing. Either if they are in alert status, and you will see them in different colors, and you can also see the different categories of alerts. Okay, so if it's a system error or indoor error, by the severity of those errors and the risk of those sites going down and require you to go on site. And as Ben mentioned, the idea is that the platform will actually do the work for you. You don't have to sit in front of this screen waiting for something to pop up, but something is running in the background and doing the work for you, analyzing the system continuously 24/7 without you being involved in the background. Now it triggers two types of alerts or notification, I would say. One is the manufacturer alerts. So you have a manufacturer alerts, as Ben mentioned, when something is already going down or there is a problem that needs to be fixed. The other type of notification you get is anomalies. So you can set anomalies. Either you set it based on your know-how of the system, what is perceived as an anomaly, something that you would like to take a look at the system once it happens, or we have some built-in anomaly libraries, which are rules that we defined based on the experience done by our team and some experts from multiple brands to build in some anomaly rules that runs in the background for you on your system and alert you if something looks strange or something require your attention. Now, once an anomaly is triggered, you are able to see it on the alert log. In the alert log, you can actually drill down to see the details of that anomaly. I just want to give you an example of something that is triggered. So here you have in our CIS site, we have an anomaly that trigger for the dirty condenser. So we built a rule to try and identify a dirty condenser. And the idea of this specific rule is just to look at the difference between the ambient temperature and the condensing temperature. And if it's too high, then it may indicate it's too high for too long period, then it may indicate that you have some issues of dirty condenser. And as you are aware, those cases for sure takes much more energy of your condensers, as well as there is a risk of more severe issues out of this situation. Well, and in a lot of the cases, a dirty condenser issue is something that you can fix quite easily by going up to the roof and take something off the fan. So once you have such an alert, you get all the details of when the alert has opened, what is the type of the alert, and you can also put in some troubleshooting guide. Okay, so the troubleshooting guide really helps you to understand what is the reason for the alert, a little bit more details of what it means, what the impact of something like that, so what can be caused if it happens, and what can be possible causes of that. Okay, so you have the flexibility of putting a real troubleshooting guide for your engineers, for your field teams, to know what to do when something happens. Okay, and it's not when it actually an alert error from the device, but also on your own anomalies. And then you can define some proposed actions. And the first thing is how you can do using our remote software in order to start troubleshooting the case. Going back to the slide with the process Ben mentioned, this is exactly the phase where you point it to your remote expert, and he's looking into the details of the VRF system or the other system and try to find what can be the reason for the problem. If that doesn't work, then you can ask somebody on site to do something. And if that also doesn't work, you may be needed on site. But then you go equipped with the tools and the right spare parts. So let's see on this one, I can double click this one, and immediately I'm being brought to the page with all the parameters of the VRF system as if I'm connected locally with the service tool of the manufacturer. Okay, you see here on the right side, you see all the parameters as if I'm with the manufacturer tool. And I have to mention that if I'm now specifically, I'm looking at a Daikin system, but if this was a Samsung or a Toshiba, I would get the list of those manufacturers. It's not that it's the same. The terminology and the names of the parameters are exactly like they appear on the manufacturer tool. And then I can, by this anomaly, automatically I get the parameters that are interesting for me when I troubleshoot this anomaly. And here I see the anomaly itself, okay, and get the details of when it happened. I can see the information of the different parameters. I can see here that the condensing temperature is 111, and I can see the ambient temperature is 73. So the difference is quite high, and it's being there for quite some time. So I want to take a look. Maybe I want to take a look at another parameter of interest. Let's take a look at the discharge temperature here, see if it's high. So I can see that it's high. It's not that high that requires me to go on site, but it's a good idea for me to keep monitoring that and see if it happens again. If it happens again in a short period, maybe it requires me to travel on site or maybe ask somebody else to go there and see what's going on the roof. So this is what we mean by remote service. So I was doing nothing specifically for the system. I just put a rule to run and analyze the system for me continuously. It can run like this for 2 weeks, for 5 months, for how long you want it to do. And at some point, when something happens, it lets you know that it's happening. It doesn't wait for your periodic checkout or for the customer to call you and tell you, listen, I have a problem or I have a very high energy consumption or something like that. So the idea is to being proactive and be able to analyze things before they actually escalates to something bigger. Okay, so again, this is the analysis tool. In additional tool that we have here for troubleshooting, beyond showing the different parameters, of course, I can look at every period back on time. I can go a year back or even more if needed and see what was happening with the system before the alert happened. So I can really do some trend analysis and see if the system was deteriorating slowly or something permanent actually happened there, or there is something more that of interest for me. Now, in addition to this parameters, I can also look at what was going with the system at the point of time that I'm looking at. Okay, I have what we call the audit log. In the audit log, you can see all the activities that were made on the system and by whom it was made. Okay, so I can see that somebody was playing with the scheduling. Okay, and he set a schedule, or somebody was turning the unit set point to 75 from the HVAC side, okay, from one of the thermostats, or somebody was doing something from the application. So I really know, I can use this tool to analyze a specific unit, who made changes to it, and from which place it came. And this helps me, for example, if somebody is calling and say, I don't understand why my room is freezing every morning that I went into the room. And eventually you look at this log and you find out there is a schedule that is running 2 hours before you enter the room and puts the set point very low. Okay, so these tools are very helpful for troubleshooting a site and understand what is going on there, as well as if you want to try and understand what's going on the site and do some policy around restricting people from doing some stuff on the site. For example, you would like to restrict people from changing set point during the night, but you do want them to give them the flexibility to change a set point while they are at the office. Okay, so based on these alerts, you can see what the people are doing with the system, and based on that, decide what you want to allow them and what you want to restrict. And of course, you can control it remotely. So if I'm going to our office, as you can see, everything now is shut down. But I can go and turn the air condition on at any point in time that I want. I can play with the set point, which are basic remote control capabilities that are available as part of the software. So these are the main, if I have to look at the main capabilities. So background anomaly engine that runs for you and analyzes the system continuously, remote control, remote alerts, and really diagnostics tools on a graphical overview that gives you all the tools to analyze the system as if you are local. Ben, referring back to you.
Thank you, Roy. I'm going to share my screen here very briefly, and then we'll be ready to take some questions. I just wanted to summarize what we talked about at the beginning of the presentation, as well as highlighting the capabilities that Roy walked through in the software. The software technology, the solution allows not only for an enhanced capability for you in providing service or understanding of your building system, but it also enhances your capabilities to handle other buildings as well outside of this. Your presence grows as a result of this. Each person working can handle more. And it comes then with the other benefits of, because you're handling things sooner rather than later when they become catastrophes, you're now seeing reductions in your overall downtimes. You're seeing prolonged equipment life. And we haven't even talked about the optimization that you'll see on the energy. Your equipment's running better, it's running less. You're going to depress down your overall energy costs and improve your energy savings overall, which is a great achievement. As we all know, VRF is already a very efficient HVAC system. So bringing that all together, reductions in downtime, prolonged equipment life, enhanced service capabilities, reducing the hours that you're dedicating to each of these projects and systems, and then your energy savings can represent, as you can see there, some very significant reductions. We've had customers that have conducted their own internal audits, and we have seen with some of them up to 55% reduction on even van dispatches. So it's great savings on any number of levels. And as CoolAutomation, we are happy to work with you and helping to understand that impact that would have to your business. We'll partner with you and work with you on coming up and understanding what that impact would represent from a saving standpoint. Overall, it's all about maximizing your technician time, offering service that's better than anybody else around you because you're there sooner, you're there more responsive because you understand the system better. So you become more effective, you grow your customer base, and you're saving money on a project by project basis. We very much appreciate your time and attention today to our webinar. I'm going to open that up now to you. If you have any questions, feel free to enter those into the Q&A. If there's anything regarding anything that's not related directly to this webinar about our other hardware products or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is on the screen. Happy to talk to you. Thank you. Thank you all very, very much. Very much appreciated. So I'm looking at our questions now. I'm going to turn the time over first to Kevin. He's been reviewing the questions. Kevin, do you want to answer one of those questions as I'm looking at them?
Sounds good. And thank you all for the questions that you've submitted. I tried to answer a few of them live, but happy to review those as well as answer some of the new ones that are coming in. And please don't be shy. Feel free to send them in and we'll try to get to them all here. Carmen, you asked about parameters, if they're available from the equipment as standard, or if we need to add any additional sensors to be able to capture that information. With the VRF system, all of that service or diagnostic data is readily available on the communication bus. So there are no additional sensors required. We're simply capturing that from the VRF system itself. I think this ties in well to a question that came in about unitary equipment, if this is available for those types of systems. On the contrary to a VRF system, those are 24-volt systems on-off, where that service or diagnostic data is not available for us to capture. So unfortunately, we cannot dig into the diagnostic points for those types of systems, but we do offer solutions that allow for remote control and integration to unitary type. So,
thank you.
Ben, I do see quite a few questions coming in about
so
pricing.
I'll answer one now, Jim or Kevin, while you review. We had a question about the is the software limited to Office or can it load up and say a technician's tablet? So everything you saw in the presentation is browser-based. So that means that it's available anywhere you have an internet connection, whether that's a home PC, an office PC, laptop, tablet. With the control app, which comes standard with the CoolMasterNet, we didn't really highlight a lot of that in the presentation, but that software actually is available as an app download as well for iPhone or Android phones. There's several questions also about the pricing. The control app portion, the control app is going to be what allows you to modify a set point, change a schedule, change a mode, something like that. That's inclusive, again, to the purchase of the CoolMasterNet. The service software that we've highlighted today is subscription-based. There are different tiers to it, and it's based on the number of connected indoor units into the software package. It's annualized, and the price is fairly nominal. I'm happy to talk about it with anybody. If they would like to reach out to me, you have my contact information. Email me or call me. We can talk about your specific project, and then I can give you the specific dynamics. But the costs are pretty nominal and designed to scale elegantly.
Then there's also some questions coming in about API or our ability to integrate into maybe a separate service tool or software that's used to schedule technicians. Do you mind addressing that as well?
Yeah, so we have an API option that's available on the cloud level. All the data points that you saw there is available to be shared with other software packages. So if you do have a CMMS package or other asset management or project management package, you can bring the data over into that software package. The API also allows for that to be pushed into our software as well. So if you have specific ticketing or things like that you want to discuss bringing into the software, those kind of features and flexibility are available. Yeah, so there's also an API available even at the local level as well that you can utilize to get that data out. Have another question about how this is unique. When we're talking about the VRF space, this is almost everything you saw here is unique. There is not anybody else that is able to provide the scope and the breadth that you saw here with our service program. So we talked about a couple of manufacturers, but any VRF manufacturer, Daikin, Mitsubishi, LG, Samsung, Hitachi, whoever they might be, we have the ability to retrieve remotely all that diagnostic information. Typically, the way that that can be accomplished is either through a manufacturer native package or requiring you go out on site with a service checker tool. So it really is a unique offering, unique software.
Okay. Chris, you mentioned, or I guess we're looking for more information on the troubleshooting guides. So we at CoolAutomation have developed the library of anomaly rules, as well as those recommended troubleshooting. We do always recommend working with your manufacturer's rep for additional support with troubleshooting, but at least with our software, you'll have immediate access to the knowledge that there is an issue, understanding what the issue is, and then a basic start for being able to correct that issue. Product, with it being cloud-based, requires internet access, definitely. But I do want to bring up that we do have solutions for using a cellular router or modem to be able to keep our product off of the local network and still being able to push that data to the app.
Thank you, Kevin. Another question was asked about if there's a central controller already installed, how does that work with that? So our device can work in parallel with the central controller. So that's not going to be an inherent conflict. I will say that the central controller is not required because our device does speak natively to the VRF system. You can connect directly into the unit and begin communicating with it. So our system acts in a number of capacities simultaneously. It can act as a central controller. Of course, as the service diagnostic tools we talked about, integration device. And then as a teaser for future webinars, we also can do power distribution calculations through the device as well.
Questions are coming in quick, so I hope we've been able to answer at least the majority of them so far. But again, please don't hesitate to reach out to us after the conclusion of this session. I'll be happy to get on a phone call with you guys or answer your questions via email directly. More than happy to have a conversation about any applications that you may have in mind or any questions that we're not able to get to today.
I seen another one about can this be utilized in legacy systems? And that answer is yes as well. So anywhere that you have a CoolMasterNet installed already, it's available to be able to provide the data that we've shown here in the webinar. So as far as compatibility, we do like to verify compatibility with all the individual models as well. So if you do have an older legacy VRF system, if that's what you're referring to, our engineers can look at it, let you know if it's compatible and what we can get out of it as far as the data points.
Leroy, with the CoolMasterNet connected, you will still have the ability to connect locally with your manufacturer's service checker tool. We're not blocking anything. That information's just available on that communication bus, so there's no limitations there. And Calvin, with regards to the Cool Remote or the IOC control app, the Cool Remote app is more or less a legacy product of ours at this point. So to stay up to date with the latest and greatest offerings, the IOC control would be our recommendation. It's very similar functionality, just with the IOC control, in my opinion, being a little bit more user-friendly and easier to use.
Another question is about if you need to install any sensors or anything like that. You do not. Everything you're seeing here is coming from the system. So once our device is connected to the system and that device is connected up to the server, you'll begin receiving all those data points that you saw from the system level.
And to Tom, your question about working directly with the VRF manufacturers to develop the predictive maintenance, the data points are not all the same between each of the manufacturers. It will look and feel very close or exactly the same as the local service check tool. Some points are available differently between each of the manufacturers. For example, a Hitachi system has leaving air temperature on an indoor unit, whereas that's not available on most of the other manufacturers, and some additional sensors that are pushing that data out on Mitsubishi or Daikin, et cetera. So there does look and feel the same from our software. You have the ability to choose which points you're analyzing, but based off of the manufacturer, you will have some varying points available. And then for
another question about, sorry,
go ahead, Ben.
Kevin, sorry. Tag teaming pretty well here, Kevin. So someone asked about troubleshooting guide. How can that be uploaded? So within the software, it does also do document management. So within the individual unit reports, you can actually upload photos, manuals, PDFs, drawings, whatever you might want to correlate it to that individual piece of equipment. So that also would include, of course, potentially a manufacturer troubleshooting guide.
And then beyond that, Seth, you asked about technical support and the ability to work with CoolAutomation to assist with your integration and tying in with that VRF system. So I, as customer success manager for North America, be more than happy to work directly with you, as well as in conjunction with our team in Israel, to provide any support that you need. The easiest way to reach us for support is through a help ticket on our website. On the support section in the bottom right corner, there's a form that you can fill out. Or of course, I'm happy to be available for phone support as well, anytime. And then Mike, you have a question about the modem plan with gigabytes and megabytes. We do have that information so that you know how to size the plan for that cellular router. Depending on the number of indoor units and whether or not you're using us for just remote control, or if you're also receiving that service data, it does vary. But we'd be more than happy to follow up with you to get you that information based off of a specific project.
Someone asked about us working with the VRF manufacturers. I absolutely collaborate with the manufacturers where we can about developing common tools that are going to be beneficial for whoever's using that specific manufacturer. They also followed up and asked about data points, and if there's the same data points from manufacturer to manufacturer. Unfortunately, they're not exactly the same, but the core points are definitely the same. Things like the pressures and the temperatures, those kind of data points, statuses of the equipment are very similar, if not the same, from manufacturer to manufacturer. But some of them have more points available, some might have a little bit less, but all of them have a pretty much very robust plate available. And then if you have any questions, someone's asking about contact, feel free, you have my contact information shared at the end of the presentation. Kevin Ward is also happy to help. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, he's over customer success, which means he specializes in the software side of things, as well as ongoing technical support, commissioning, things like that. Another gentleman who's not on this call today is David Diaz-Perez. He's our sales engineer over the United States, and he can help collaborate with you to make sure that you've got the correct product specified, give you guidance on what the pricing would be for the hardware and the software. If you want to reach out to any of them, reach out to me. I'm happy to get you in touch with either Kevin or David. I think well, we've still got quite a few people here. I'm trying to hit all the questions. As Kevin was saying, they're coming in pretty quick. Someone asked if this is similar to a BMS. Definitely has capabilities that parallel a BMS. Our hardware is often used to integrate into BMS platforms as well, but it can be used either way, right? So it allows you give you the control capabilities, but allows you as well to play with other systems that might be on site. You might have a VRF system working with a chiller system or unitary controllers, or excuse me, systems. Can all work together, and CoolAutomation can facilitate that connection. Service Titan, we are familiar with Service Titan. We have customers that are using Service Titan, and we definitely have the capabilities to integrate. If you're interested in talking about that further, please reach out to me. We can talk about it in detail.
Tom, with your question about potentially extending the warranty of the system, unfortunately, I don't think it will hurt, but I don't think there's any budging the standard manufacturer's warranty. Of course, it will enhance your ability to extend the system's life overall. You're helping catch problems before they ever cause the system to fail. And of course, with proper maintenance and service, you're able to keep the system running longer and keeping a healthier building. But unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be any change with the written warranty. Seen some questions.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kevin.
About residential versus commercial, and it's certainly for both. Jim, I know you mentioned that most homes aren't VRF, which I completely understand. But this is the solution is for specifically VRF systems, being able to capture that diagnostic information and push it out. As we continue to grow and develop additional capabilities, hopefully unitary systems will be in our scope, but as of today, the standard methods for those types of systems are your best bet. And I do also see a multi-brand question, which is great to point out that our CoolMaster Net comes out of the box ready to connect with any manufacturer and can support multiple brands simultaneously. There are specific ports on the CoolMaster Net, with some dedicated to Daikin, Mitsubishi, Toshiba, Hitachi. And then there's also separate ports that are available to work with LG, Midea, Samsung, etc. And we can connect to both simultaneously. So if you have a building with multiple VRF systems, you can use us as a central controller for all of those systems, or it may allow you to introduce your preferred manufacturer to a building with a legacy product there as well. And that service data will be available across multiple manufacturers at the same time. So regardless of the manufacturer on the site, we can connect, control, and access that remote diagnostic data for you.
Someone asked about API. I mentioned that we have an API local available at the CoolMaster Net level as well as at the cloud level. Cloud level is going to give you a much more robust set of data points to be able to integrate into. That has been highlighted in the presentation. We also support in the CoolMaster Net BACnet IP and BACnet MST. That was another question that was asked. And that someone asked about data trending for the software. Absolutely, it's database driven. We have different tiers of how much data is retained, but you can save up to a year's worth of data on that. Once you connect it, it automatically begins trending that data, making it available to be able to see, do analysis. And that was like led right into the question that we all want to hear, right? So yes, he asked if we're going to be at HR. We will be at HR. We're at C1152. We're in the controls showcase area. We would love to see you. Kevin and I will both be there, and happy to shake your hand, talk even further about CoolAutomation and our capabilities. I think that's probably a pretty intuitive spot for us to let everybody go. Maybe I will share I'll share the last slide from the slideshow again with my contact information again. If anybody wants to write it down or missed it, have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Really appreciate everybody's time and attention. Thank you. Thank you all for your questions as well.
Yeah, thanks so much, everybody. Looking forward to meeting most of you at AHR if you're there, and definitely looking forward to working with you. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.